So, hi everybody. Again, I'm Dr. Prabakar. I'm a board certified OBGYN, and I'm going to have Dr. Schimek introduce herself in a minute. But today we are talking about weight loss in menopause and optimizing one's health around this time. Specifically, really any time, but really we're talking about menopause since many patients, many women find it very hard to conquer this at this in this age group, and so we're going to be talking a little bit more about that, and also announcing an offer that we have as well at the end. So, hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to partner with Dr. Prabhakar and kind of like announce what we're going to be doing so that we can serve more people. But a little bit about me. I am a family physician and a lifestyle medicine physician that lives in Contra Costa County. Have been working for over 10 years providing this type of care, and I especially love working with women. I think women sometimes are misunderstood. And so really love focusing with them on like their goals and like achieving like the optimal health that they want for themselves because it's possible.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, and then as far as other things about me, I mean, I think the other things you should know is I have two kids, and I think that really gives me a new perspective. It certainly changed the way I doctor. And then I'm an athlete. I love running, and I love like dancing and being out in nature, hiking, things like that.
Awesome. And in addition to being a board certified family practice doctor, you also have an extra certification in lifestyle medicine.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
so lifestyle medicine has really picked up within the past 5 to 10 years. It's a new board certification. And it's amazing how many physicians across all specialties have been recognizing that we need to get to the root cause of a lot of the illnesses that we're seeing. 80% of what I see in clinic day to day has roots in lifestyle medicine. Especially now, we're seeing like a boom of metabolic illness. And when I say metabolic illness, what I'm meaning is the high blood pressure, cholesterol is elevated, prediabetes to diabetes, fatty liver, PCOS. And then lifestyle is also the root to like when people are coming in and complaining of things of like brain fog, depression, um, a lot of GI symptoms, right? Like I see a lot of people with reflux, with IBS, constipation, and making sure that we're checking in on those components of lifestyle.
yes, absolutely. And I think in my practice as a gynecologist, I'm a menopause expert. I'm certified through the North American Menopause Society. And so I have a lot of patients who see me for menopause care. And I think the number one complaint, in addition to the typical things of menopause, such as hot flashes and sweats and poor sleep, probably the number one thing after that is weight gain and inability to shed those pounds despite doing all the things. So patients are often exercising like they used to. They're eating well. They're increasing their protein, but the weight is all going to the midsection, right? Which is something we know happens in menopause. But well, what do we do about it? And that is something that everybody wants to know, and people are willing to work on that. But there's no easy fix, and so this is why we decided to partner together with the lifestyle medicine aspect. I do all the hormone therapy for menopause, which can certainly improve metabolism, but it's not a quick fix for weight loss. So I always tell my patients, yes, giving back and supplementing with estrogen does improve your metabolism, but you're not gonna, necessarily lose 20 pounds right after. And it is true that around perimenopause and menopause, the things that you said, Trisha, like the high blood pressure and the cholesterol and all of these things do start to creep up in the late 40s, early 50s. So what do we do and how can we set ourselves up for aging well and living a post menopause life that is still active and healthy? So, what are some of like the pillars of, you know, lifestyle medicine that you see addressing with patients around this time of their lives?
Yeah. So if we're going to talk about the pillars of lifestyle, so there are six pillars of lifestyle. Um, my favorite, I mean, I think all of them need to be addressed to like think about the holistic part of our health. My favorite to address is nutrition, because we have to eat, right? Like all of us have to eat. And if we can eat so that we're like fueling our bodies and giving ourselves good food. So when we talk about nutrition, and especially for women in menopause, so I am a huge proponent for a whole food, plant-based diet. And what that means is like eat food that grows from the ground that still looks like the plant, and less of things that grow in a plant, right? Like things that are refined or processed, or things that have four legs. And that way that we know that we're getting all the vitamins, minerals, micronutrients that our body needs. Uh, and if we think about it too, the if we eat those things, we're going to be less likely. Like it's really hard to overeat on spinach, carrots, all those things. Like there's just no way that we can consume more calories that way. Um, so getting things from plants is 100%, and specifically for menopause, really thinking about plant-based proteins. I think, I mean, I grew up in the Midwest and we always had like, you had your meat, potato, and vegetable. And so like the food was always, or the meal was always focused around the meat as the protein. And that's what I grew up knowing as that's the protein source. And you know, when you were doing better, you had chicken, or fish. And so like really thinking about other sources of proteins. Beans and lentils are amazing sources of protein. You can even get more protein from that than from meat sources. And we actually just had to read this article for my lifestyle medicine certification. You can increase your lifespan by 3 years by adding just like a half a cup of beans a day. So I
Amazing.
was like, I'll take it. Half a cup of beans and 3 more years of life. And thinking about our health span, I love
Yeah.
the idea of a health
Yeah.
span and not just a lifespan,
Yes.
like living the
Yes.
best we can.
Yes.
Uh, the
Yes. Definitely.
uh, the other
Yeah.
things.
What are some
Oh, go ahead.
other pillars? I was going to say that, I mean, I agree that nutrition is key. And I think, even as a physician, as somebody who really is into eating well, when I really did a deep dive into my own nutrition, I was like, oh, maybe I'm not really eating that well. There are a lot of little things that I was able to see that I was doing or not doing. And so I think a common misconception is like, okay, as long as I don't eat fast food and as long as I don't, I don't know, eat chips all the time, I'm eating well. But there's a lot more to it, as you said. So I love that nutrition is like the number one and the biggest thing that we can control. What are some other pillars?
Yeah, I will go into the pillar of physical activity. But the other thing about nutrition that I was thinking about is when I started like examining my own diet too, things that I always thought were healthy, of like granola bars or a protein bar, or thinking about yogurt. Like I eat yogurt every day. And really looking at what's the sugar content of the yogurt and the granola bars that were the quick, easy grab and go. Um, but going into physical activity. So physical activity is especially important as we age. We know that during like the perimenopause, menopause time, our muscle mass goes down. And as a result of muscle mass going down, metabolism kind of follows. And so you're like, I'm doing everything the same. I'm exercising and eating the same. Why would I be packing on the pounds? So physical activity, and the recommendations are at least getting 30 minutes of moderate activity 5 times a week If you are a vigorous exerciser, an hour and a half of that, or 75 minutes of that at least a week, and then adding some kind of strength training 3 times a week to hold on to that muscle mass.
Okay, I think we lost you there for a little bit, but okay, I think you're on back. Okay. Um, so yes, exercise, keeping up the muscle mass, important just to burn calories because muscle burns more calorie than fat, but also for things like balance as we get older. So that's really important as well. Um, what about
Osteoporosis,
what?
like thinking about,
Yes,
yes.
yes, muscle and bone. Yep, bone and osteoporosis prevention. Okay, great. And then what about patients who say like, well, yes, I'm doing all those things. I'm working with a trainer. I'm going 3, 4 days a week. I'm eating plant-based, maybe an occasional dessert here and there. And now we know there's all this information about, GLP, 1 inhibitors and all these medications that have become very popular. Where do you see medications fitting in with, in this whole picture that we're talking about weight loss and menopause?
Yeah. So I think even before we get there, doing like a deep dive and getting like granular and getting the details of like what we're doing in each of these is really helpful because I know that I've like when I've really reflected on what I'm doing, I see areas that I need to improve on, and all of us generally need to improve on. Um, and there's sometimes like a lot of things that go into like our mouths and we like don't even notice. And we can talk about the types of eating later. And so I think getting like truthful and like figuring that out and checking in on that. But then, yeah, there are times that medications can be useful. But the reason I want to make sure that we've touched on all those things is because our weight, uh, is a result of many factors. And because they are a result of nutrition, exercise, stress, sleep, those need to be addressed along with using medications. Um, and especially when we're looking at the studies and whether or not these medications keep weight off after you have taken the weight off. And so we need to do the things in combination. Um, yeah, I can go further if you'd like, but
Well, no, I think that's helpful. I know a lot of patients come to me and say, "Okay, can you just write me a prescription for Ozempic?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not that easy. As we know, there's a lot of studies overall that have shown good results with such medications for cardiovascular disease, weight loss. But we know there are also some issues, and we don't have long-term data. We don't have long-term data as to how anything pans out after 5 years. We don't really. We know that it's once you stop these medications, a lot of patients put the weight back on. So these are not necessarily the most sustainable forms of weight loss. And as you said, if we really did a deep dive into each of our habits,
mhm.
um, we all have a ways to go in probably all of those pillars. Because when we talk about weight and, pounds, it's not just eating and exercise, it's the sleep and the stress and the spikes in cortisol. There's like so many other things to also
Yeah.
discuss.
And it makes sense, right? Like that we want results, and taking something is uh, perhaps sometimes easier than like thinking about and reflecting and putting into place all of that. So it makes sense that we're looking to that uh, as a tool. Uh, and I mean, it happens in my clinic too. Like I see, and they do have a time and place. Absolutely, we have seen some good results. Um, but it's usually in conjunction. And then the other thing we were saying is, there are side effects of medications, like a lot of the GI side effects, right? Like they work by your stomach, well, the GLP ones specifically work by having your stomach empty slower. So a lot of times they can come with some nausea, kind of just like not feeling so great in the stomach. Um, And then the cost of them too, like the cost hasn't come down yet. And so being
Yeah.
on those for a long time. Um,
Yeah. And committing to being on it for months or years, right? It's a long-term commitment. And so that's not ideal either. So, one of the things that I find in traditional medical practice is just there's no time to address these things, which are arguably the more important things to address than just, giving a prescription for whatever issue that a patient is coming in with. And I know in your field in family medicine, you probably address some of this more so than other specialists, but even then, the typical medical appointment is 10-15 minutes long. I know in our specialty. And so as you mentioned, even for women with things like PCOS, infertility, um, heart risk factors for heart disease like cholesterol, high blood pressure, prediabetes, there's very little room given to actually address these most fundamental pillars of health. And in my practice, I see patients for a longer period of time. We spend 30 to 45 minutes, even an hour sometimes. And so we have more time to discuss these things. But this is not the case everywhere else. And so I feel really strongly that we should, you know, bring this to the office where patients are not just left like, Googling around or watching YouTube videos on like how this can be done, but really being guided by a medical professional. Um,
mhm. Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
absolutely. I mean, it's a frustration from patients and physicians both, right? Like we all would want more time to address this and address it how we want to, right? Like um, at the root cause. And it feels like it is the best feeling in the world as a physician to take medications away or to see patients getting better with like the planning and the advice that we give. Like that is the best feeling. And I just like want to give patients like hope that it is easier for us to write a pill, right? Like I was probably like practice that way 10 years ago where I'd be like, oh, they have high blood pressure. Like we need to give a pill. And then you're like, oh, wait. I was somewhat reacting to like the system we're in and like, oh, it's quicker. But it's so much more satisfying to help a patient go through that process and make those lifestyle changes and get results. Like I love taking medications away.
Yes, yes, and I think as much as we love it, I think patients really want it too. Like I know one of the things that patients always ask me, even as a GYN, is there anything I can do about this naturally? It could be vaginitis, it could be fibroids, it could be endometriosis. And yes, we have medications, we have surgery for all of these things, but the first question that many ask me is like, well, what is there a natural supplement? Is there a type of food I should be eating? Is there, a type of exercise I should be doing? What can I do naturally? And I think everybody wants to do that first too. Many patients don't want to pop a pill or run to surgery or whatever for these things. So I think the desire is there on both sides, of wanting to do, address this from the core, kind of the root cause, and then move forward that way. So that's why we have put together a program. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, yeah. So when Dr. Prabakar and I were talking, that she was telling me that she hears this a lot from patients that, waistline's expanding a little bit, that they're like feeling a little bit more tired, that they're not thinking as clearly as they want to, or that blood pressure is going up, or those lipids are going up. And I was like, oh, that's what I love addressing. Like I love addressing these factors and like helping my patients get results. And so we decided that we would team up and that I could like do lifestyle medicine consultations with her patients. And so kind of how we've decided to do that is I would see you more often than you would get in to see your PCP, seeing you doing like an initial full intake. So this is for that patient that is ready, that like wants to make change. If you're on the fence, you can still come talk to me. We'll figure it out. But if you're ready to like make some change, we're gonna do a deep dive into your lifestyle, see where we can tweak, because there will be places that we can, and then checking in with you every 2 weeks to see how that's going, see where we can make changes to get to the goals that you want for yourself.
Absolutely. Yes. And we'll be doing this over about a 6 month period because we know that this kind of change is not instantaneous. It's not something that, okay, you just make a couple changes and next month, you're all good. This takes time to really build on. And I know this from personal experience because after I had my 3 kids, I did a whole year-long program to just kind of revamp how I thought about food and did a deep dive myself. And it took like really a whole year to cement these as habits rather than just saying, oh, okay, I'm going to make all these changes and then 3 months later you're back to doing whatever it is you're doing. So it takes time. It takes that personal accountability and just tackling it from all of these different angles. And it's really cool because we have an MD doing that for us in this practice, which is great. And so then we'll also have some coaching calls, like group coaching calls as well, that are optional because sometimes I really believe we learn from each other. Things that work for one person, may not always work for another person, or maybe you didn't think about trying it this way, but then when you hear about it from somebody else, you get inspired to do that. So we're planning on that, and a few specialty speakers as well, maybe a sleep specialist or a health coach. So we have that in line as well for this. So we are really excited to be introducing this program this September, mid-September in our office, and we are happy to send you more information on this. So if you can just comment below the word lifestyle, and we will send you all the information. We'll reach out to you, get your email address, and then send you information about this program. And we can also answer, if anybody has any other questions about anything we've talked about lifestyle, weight loss, and menopause. We'll be happy to do that. And I love this program also because it goes hand in hand with patients using hormones, right? So I write a lot of prescriptions for hormones, for estrogen and progesterone and testosterone. So I do that a lot in my practice. But combining that with this lifestyle option and looking at, okay, what else can I optimize to really set myself up well for the next few decades is priceless. So, any other comments, Trisha?
No, I'm really excited to work with anyone who wants help. There is absolute hope. I see my patients getting better all the time. Um, and like you deserve it. Like you deserve to like get this information, apply it to your life. I think so often like women just kind of like accept like, oh, my mom told me that this is like the way it is, or this is what grandma says, and like they just accept. And actually, like we have the power and like to make some changes. And a lot of this, it's not about willpower, it's about skill power. And like, can I like learn these skills to like live a healthy, enjoyable life? And it's possible.
Yes. And you don't have to be in menopause to do this program.
Yeah.
You could be premenopausal, you could be postmenopausal, whatever it is. It's for anybody who really wants to revamp their health and wellness. We targeted around menopause because that was just the most common request that I was seeing in the office from patients. This is last year, if you asked me, I didn't even think about this program, but over the last couple of years, the number of patients who asked me for it, just grew and grew. And I was like, oh my goodness, we really need something along these lines. And so that's why we're talking about it around menopause, because again, this is when patients really notice a big change and they're like, oh, I need to do something. Prior to that, you're busy raising your kids and running around and eating their leftovers and whatever, right? Like we've all done that.
Guilty,
Um,
like all the time.
right? Yes. Yes. And then this is the time when you're like, okay, all these things that I tried is not working anymore. And so this is what I've seen. And so we've kind of, we're talking about it in the context of menopause, but you could really, your goal may just be, you know what? I want to get off some of my meds. Like, I don't want to be on this high blood pressure medication and this cholesterol medication and this pre-diabetes medication. What can I do to, get off some of these medications? So that could be your reason to want this. So you could be watching this now, you could be watching this later, as a replay, or maybe you're on my email list and you're watching it next week. Doesn't matter. If you want more information, let us know just by using the word lifestyle. You can just send us a comment here and we will send you that information this week. So we have a question here from Cal Bruins. Says, part of the sandwich generation and curious how to get tips on stress and sleep.
Yeah. I love addressing stress. Actually, here I have a book, not to like promote something else, but there's this book, How Healers Heal. And yesterday was actually the year anniversary of it coming out. And it's written by 33 lifestyle medicine doctors, all about the different lifestyle pillars. And I actually wrote my chapter about stress because when I examined my life, I realized stress was the area that I needed to address. Like I was a new mom, full-time physician, two kids, and was realizing that I was actually kind of undergoing chronic stress. And that was like affecting like sleep. I wasn't exercising as much. I wasn't reaching out to like friends as much. And so some of the things that I think are really great to address stress is like for me, it's been like a gratitude practice and journaling have helped out a lot. And then reaching out to your social circle. Do you have specific questions around stress? And I'd be happy to kind of touch on them. Um, the other thing with stress is, and I see this a lot, that people are like eating well and they're exercising well and they're still like in that pre-diabetes. And we do know that cortisol um, can be elevated because of chronic stress and causes that like inflammation in our body. And so it is important to start to address that and uh, kind of create like a mindfulness practice and kind of calm ourselves down.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think part of it is also willing to try these things. I know when mindfulness became like really popular, I feel like that word did not exist when I was in medical school or
Yeah.
residency. But recently, it's easy to somehow like just poo-poo some of these things that you're like, oh well, that seems a little soft. But if you really, there are papers written on this. There's research that's been done, and so I think part of it is also just being willing to embrace some of these new things that we didn't necessarily grow up with, or research now has shown, and just trying them out and seeing how they help. Um, so the question is, well, there are so many emergencies every week. How do you calm yourself down and recover?
Yeah, I think one is like figuring out what is an emergency, and realizing what's in my control. A lot of it is there are things that are out of our control and kind of like an acceptance of that, and then figuring out what I can do, especially in for like emergency situations. Like, is my role in that time to like comfort or to take control and make sure things get done. Um, but yeah, I'd be happy to
Yeah,
talk more about
yeah.
that. But mindfulness has been a game changer for me, and it doesn't have to mean that you're going off and meditating for like a weekend retreat. A lot of it can be done in the moment of like getting connected with your body again, and noticing what's around you, being more present. Um, And it can take all of just like 1 or 2 minutes just to kind of center yourself and kind of bring yourself back. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And so much also has to do with mindset and we touch a little bit on coaching, right?
yeah.
What you were talking about, like, okay, what's an emergency, what's not, and realizing you can't control everything, right? Which is also hard.
It
Um,
sucks when I realize that. You're like, wait,
yeah.
I can't. But yeah, the mindset, especially, and the mindset, especially, coming around like with well, actually all pillars, nutrition, sleep. We know that like the best treatment that we have for insomnia or for sleep problems is um, a CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, because a lot of it has to do with what's going on in our mind as well, and how to
Hmm.
how do we even think about sleep?
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. We're happy to take any other questions. Yes, thank you. It helps me to remind me that we can pull out for a few minutes during an emergency. Yes. Yes. I think we're so used to reacting, right? Like
Yeah.
just in a lot of situations without even thinking. I think about the way we answer text messages, right? Like every text that comes, sometimes you're like, okay, I need to answer it. But sometimes you just take a second and you're like, do I really need to answer these four text messages right now? I'm in the middle of something else. Like, is it really, a need? And so I think we can do that with a lot of things in our lives, like just taking a second and saying, okay, is this really necessary at the moment? So,
Yeah, and the reacting versus responding. Like,
mm-hmm,
can I just breathe for a moment and then respond to the situation? This comes up a lot with food that you were saying. Like, can I just ask myself one question of like, am I hungry? Like, if all we did was that and just asked ourselves if we were hungry before we ate, just that because it interrupts our reaction, and we can then respond.
I, I love that. I love that. I think I need to ask myself that question every time I see some candy around.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I know so much in the break room, right?
I know. Um, the six pillars: sleep, nutrition, exercise.
Yeah, social connection, substance use, and stress management. And then there's a push for nature to be in there. I believe that, like, I think getting out in nature certainly like grounds us, connects us, makes me feel better. But
Yes, it's awesome. Great. Um, yeah, if anyone has any last couple questions, we'll take that. Otherwise, please DM me with the word lifestyle, send me a message, or you can just comment on this video once we publish it, which will be just in a few seconds when we end. Oh, we have a question here. I completely agree about removing medications, but I'm curious about the perspective of using HRT along with coaching guidance. Yes, that's a great question, Cosmonaut. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. Because when we lose estrogen around perimenopause, when our ovaries start to produce less of it, we start to have some significant, we start to feel it, right? The hot flush is, the brain fog is a huge one. um a difficulty concentrating at work, night sweats, all of those things. And so we can never really fully replace all of the estrogen our ovaries gave us, but we can give back some to help with all of those symptoms and to help us feel better, build stronger bones, uh, and have better heart health, brain health, all of those things. So yes, we can do that, but then there's a lot of other work that needs to be done around just feeling, just managing our mood, eating well, moving, all of those things. And so that's where I think the behavioral changes and the coaching comes along, and that's why I think it's a great pairing together, which is again why I thought about it for women who are undergoing menopause. So yes, I agree. And these are not the medications we're talking about weaning off. We're not talking about taking away estrogen or progesterone, but we're talking about, taking away blood pressure medications maybe. And, I speak about blood pressure because often I can't put patients on estrogen if your blood pressure is really high. And so patients really need the estrogen. And I really know that it would greatly help them. But then their blood pressure is high. And first we need to tackle that, and so if you can optimize all of that before you even reach menopause, even better, because then you'll be in good health to take hormones. And so, yes, I'm a big proponent of hormones, and I'm definitely not talking about, taking away hormones, but rather taking away some of the other medications that you may be getting side effects from, or you just don't want to be taking all these meds. I have
Mhm.
patients who just tell me that, like, I'm on six things. How can I get down to one or two, or none? Right? So you can be anywhere in this journey and join us for this. So again, just send me a message with the word lifestyle. We'll be happy to send you this information. And we start mid-September, and it's going to be great. So we are really excited to do this and really serve our patients and serve women in our community, to to feel well, function well, and just live well, so you can have a longer, more amazing health span.
Well said.
Do you have anything else, Trisha?
No, I think
Oh,
that was perfect.
all right. Okay, well, have a great afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and really, really excited to see so many of you here live. And again, hopefully many more will watch the replay. If you know a friend, a family member, a colleague, who may be interested, just point them to this Instagram live. I'll be publishing it shortly, as soon as we log off. And so anybody can watch it at any time. And we look forward to working with you. See you later.
Absolutely.
Okay, bye, everybody. Bye, Trisha. See you.
Bye.
Bye.